Let's talk a little bit about the plugins that come in Pro Tools. Earlier we discussed Audio Suite plugins. They're found up here under the Audio Suite drop-down menu. You remember that those are plugins that render their effects directly to the audio. So that is a permanent alteration of an audio waveform using one of these different effects. You can see there's a ton of different ones that I have here on my system. The other type of plugin that Pro Tools supports is the AAX format. So there's AAX Native and AAX DSP. We're going to be concerned with the AAX Native format. The native format uses the capabilities or power or processing of your CPU of your computer to process its data, and it does this in real time. So on my vocal track right now, I have two separate AAX Native plugins. I have the channel strip that comes with Pro Tools, and you can see it's got an expansion gate, it's got a compressor, a limiter, and it's also got EQs and filters down here. So you can see I'm applying some compression. You can see my voice here, as well as I'm using a gate. So when I'm not talking, it shuts off that channel. And also I have applied some EQ to the microphone that I'm speaking through. Because this is a native plugin or an AAX native format in Pro Tools, everything that you're hearing has been processed through this plugin in real time. Same with all of these plugins up here. So the faster the CPU you have, or the newer the machine, most likely, the more plugins you'll be able to instantiate in your Pro Tools session because they rely on the processing power of your CPU. There are really two types of plugins that we can discuss. One is called a gain-based processor or gain-based plugin, and one is called a time-based processor. So let's look at those for just a minute. A gain-based plugin is any plugin where we are changing the volume structure or the dynamic range of a specific audio source. So some examples of gain-based processing would be EQ, because we're changing the gain of certain frequencies. Also compression, because we're also changing the gain structure of the audio signal. Some others would be a gate, or perhaps an expander. Expander is kind of the exact opposite of compressor. So these are the four most common gain-based processors that you run into. The two most common that you will see will be these. You really don't see gates or expanders too much. But EQ and compression you're using constantly. So these are all gain-based. The next type is time-based. So those are going to be things like reverb, chorus, delay, flange, echo. So these are all elements that change over time. Delay takes a period of time, flange is a delay in the signal, echo is a delay in the signal, and reverb is a delay in the original signal. All of those are time-based. The reason that we're talking about these two different types, gain and time-based processing, is because of the way that we usually use them in a Pro Tools session. Whenever you add an AAX plugin to your Pro Tools session as an insert, you're going to get the plugin window, and it has some common controls right up here at the top, no matter which specific plugin you use. So let's take a few minutes and let's look at each of these controls in the native plugin window here. The first right here is the track selector button. This basically selects the track that you're looking at. So, we could come over here and click on this plugin, click on this plugin, click on this plugin. Essentially, when you use this track selector, you're doing the same thing. It's like you're clicking on the plugin. So we could go here if we wanted to see what was on the click track over here. We could just click here on the track selector and go to click. And you can see it takes us over here. This is now highlighted and this is not. So it does the exact same thing as if you were just clicking on the respective plugin itself over here in the insert area. So that's the track selector. The next is the actual plugin selector, this is where you choose which specific type of plugin that you want to add. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's click on the de-esser first. Say we want to change this and make it a compressor. Okay, we could either come over here, click on this, say no insert, and then click on it again and say add a different plugin, like that, a different compressor. Or we could click right here on the plugin selector and choose a different option. Maybe we want to use this compressor. Or maybe we want to use, again, something different. So this is called the plugin selector. It effectively is allowing you to do the same thing as coming over here, selecting no insert, and then coming back and selecting a different plugin. Just an easier, faster way to alter what plugins are on specific tracks. So we'll take this back to the de-esser, like that. All right, let's look at this next button right here. This is the insert selector. So this tells you which particular plugin you're looking at. In other words, of the inserts A through E that are available in my session right now, we are looking at number B, and you can see this is indeed number B. If we click here on this plugin, you can see now it says A. So it just changes you from one plugin to the next slot. So that way, if you had a bunch of plugins added here, you could scroll through them without clicking and losing your place in the actual window over here. Okay, so now I've got 4 plugins, so I could go, I want to look at the channel strip, or I want to look at here the audio track plugin on the third insert, or maybe the de-esser, or maybe Filter Freak. Okay, that's a lot easier than moving over here to the left, clicking, and then moving back. You can stay right in the same area. You have to move your mouse a small amount rather than, going back over here or whatever. So this is a nice, easy way to get around your plugin selector, your track selector, and your insert selector. A couple of other buttons we want to look at. The bypass button. This strictly bypasses the entire plugin. You can tell my voice changed. The EQ is now not being applied, and neither is the compression, so it's a lot quieter. Turn that back on. You also notice that when you bypass the plugin, it also turns a light blue. So it lets you know that it's been bypassed. There's also a shortcut that you can use to bypass a plugin so you don't have to open the plugin window, and that shortcut is Command and click on the plugin. So you can see by command and clicking on the plugin, I am bypassing that plugin. If we open this up, you'll see the bypass button is selected. As soon as we click on it, now it is back to its normal gray color. So command clicking disables or re-enables the plugin so it's not being bypassed. Most plugins also have a menu of presets that you can choose from. Here you can see the preset I'm using is Todd's voice. I named that one myself if you didn't figure it out. We could also choose some different sounds as well. So this one probably makes my voice sound like a telephone. So this is the librarian menu, gives you a variety of different options for presets within a specific plugin. So a couple of things that are different about master faders. First is that they are post fader. Their effects are post fader. And as you know, other normal tracks like auxiliary inputs, instrument, and audio tracks are all pre-fader. So what does that mean? Let's add a master track. Okay, first thing you notice is there are no sends. Reason that there are no sends is because it is the final destination. So we're not going to be sending anything from here back out to come back in. This is our final track. Okay, you can see you can have plugins instantiated here. You have slots for inserts A through E and also F through J, just like regular auxiliary input or audio tracks. So let's look at what I mean when I say pre-fader or post-fader. Here we have a track, and this plugin is all pre-fader. What that means is it's being applied before the fader. So if I start pulling the fader down, what you'll notice is this signal here will remain the same. I'll keep talking and I'll pull this all the way down. You'll lose it. You won't be able to hear it, but you'll see that there's still signal being sent. Check. You can still see the signal, and then as I raise the fader, you can hear it again. Okay, so the signal kept passing through the plugin because it was up here. It was pre-fader. The plugin is pre-fader. Now let's look at the same plugin. Let me copy this and place it on the master plugin. That's probably really loud. So let me pull this down a ways. Okay, so now let's look at this specific plugin. And what we'll do here, we'll do the same thing. We'll pull down the master fader, and what you'll see is as I pull down the master fader, all of these levels start to go down as well. So here I go, starting to pull down. You'll notice the levels are starting. I was still speaking. I'll keep speaking. So you saw the levels up here all change and go to 0. That's because this insert, realistically, is post-fader. So it's down here, really. All you really need to know is that master faders, the inserts, are post-fader, and all the other tracks, instrument, auxiliary input, and audio tracks are all pre-fader. Master faders can also be used not only to control the main output, but also the volume of a bus. So, for example, if we had our reverb here, let's go ahead and turn some reverb on here like this. And we decided to assign this master fader to bus 1 and 2. We could use this to control the overall volume of our reverb. So that's something else we can do. You can actually take and apply the master fader to a number of buses. It doesn't always have to be just the main output. So you could use this to control volume from any specific bus that you have it assigned to. The only thing you can't do is have more than one master fader assigned to the same output. So if I add another master fader here, like this, you'll see it automatically added a new output assignment. Okay? You can't add a master fader more than one to a specific bus or output. So I could assign this to output 3 and 4, and I could have this one on 1 and 2, or I could assign this to a bus. Maybe bus 3 and 4, and then maybe this reverb unit goes out to bus 3 and 4 like this, and then I could use this particular master output fader to control the reverb level. So a number of different ways that you can use a master fader. You can use it on any hardware output, and you can also assign a master fader to control the output level of any bus. Important thing to remember, though, is that master faders are always post-fader as far as their inserts go, and all the other track types are pre-fader.